The word is mensch. But a mensch really, in the translation of the German and the Hebrew, means a human being of sterling character and integrity, someone you really look up to.
I remember growing up, when we would go to a restaurant or go out to the mall, that someone would come up and either show my dad the baby, or even in my grandfather's case, we would go out to a restaurant and maybe the hostess would say something like, "Oh, Dr. Meyer, you delivered me." You know, I'm really proud that there's been someone with the name of, Julien Meyer practicing medicine here for the last 75 years or so.
Well, we've always had a dispute as to when we first met, but the truth is, I was 1.5 and he was 2 when we first met. My earliest remembrance of being with Julien is we both went to Ms. Craig's kindergarten. We went to Camp Moorhead together, prep school at Mercersburg Academy together, Carolina, Chapel Hill, and roomed together. And he ditched me for his first wife and left me. He went off to medical school, I went off to law school. We traveled together all over the world, part of each other's marriages, part of each other's divorces, part of each other's births of children, part of each other's cancer. In all that time, I can't ever remember a single moment of jealousy or dispute. Literally, he's been a part of my life forever. I doubt if there have been too many friendships quite like it.
About 3 or 4 months after a very difficult divorce, I said, "Let me fix you up with one of my friends." And he said, "I don't want to be fixed up." And I said, "Julien Meyer, you will go and date this girl, I'm telling you." The next morning, Julien called me and he said, "Oh my God, I went to this address, I rang the doorbell, and this beautiful girl opened the door, and I couldn't believe my good luck."
He would always tell the same stories over and over and over and over. Stories would happen in your life like that were your stories, and he would love to, he would latch on to those stories, and he would tell them constantly.
The favorite story that my brother loves so much is the story of how he controlled me. We would sit at dinner, which we had the 4 of us every night. He would make faces at me. And of course my parents didn't see it, and I would, just scream and cry and tell Julien to stop it, and so then I would get into trouble. And he loved that. When we talked about it as adults, I said, "Why did you do this to me?" And he said, "Because I could." Most of the things that I got into trouble for were his fault. There are home movies of us that show him always putting his arm around me, and I would always wiggle away because, he was a jerk to me, and I would say, my parents loved him the most, and then the next thing I know, my mother comes and tells me that that's not true. I even went and told her that.
He is an avid fisherman. Orvis has nothing that you cannot find in Julien's garage or in his basement.
Several years ago, he tried to teach me how to cast and showed me how to make the motion. I cast the rod, and he said, "You cast like you play tennis."
We did a few casting lessons one day, and of course, everything I did was wrong.
I've known Julien for 17 years. I started working at Physicians the Women, and on my first day of working there, he had me in Orvis buying fishing equipment. On the 3rd day, we were fishing on the James. He's caught a tree fishing. How he ever caught a tree and lost his rod doing it?
I am not a fisherman. He's tried to get me to fish. He's bought me waders. He's bought me jackets that have got little hooks all over. He even took me out in a pasture one day with a fly rod and tried to get me going.
He didn't start texting until probably 6 months ago. I would use some abbreviations. The first time I ever did that, he sent me a note back that said, "I'm not going to answer your text if you can't spell the words out."
One thing that we've learned in our 25 plus years of our relationship, don't ever plan anything that conflicts with a North Carolina basketball game.
We had to rebuild our home. We lost it to fire, and Julien just gave us the cabin for a year, and we lived in it while we were rebuilding. Little did I know that the cost of that year, I would have to be his servant for life.
I've known Julien most of my life. We grew up in the general neighborhood together. He's a year older than I, but we're at Wasena Elementary School together. And then we went to Woodrow Wilson together. I remember him being a terrific tennis player on the Woodrow Wilson tennis team. He used to tell a story all the time about when I was at Woodrow Wilson Junior High School, and he supported another candidate for president of the junior high school. And he used to tell that story over and over again. I said, Julien, look, that was a long time ago. and he knows I don't particularly like it when he tells that story.
He was always immaculately dressed, very neat, and he wears a bow tie. I started wearing a bow tie after he actually showed me how to tie a bow tie.
The only way you could get in trouble, really, at Mercersburg was to be caught being up too late after lights were out. He was the only student that had a clothes horse in our room, and he would put out his sport coat, his tie, his whatever for the next day. Of course, he'd wait to the last minute to do that. And he got caught several times, of course, with after lights were out. He was caught laying out his wardrobe for the following day.
One time I sent him a thank you note, and I spelled his first name Julian. I get a card back, and I'm like wondering, why am I getting a card back from getting, it was almost like a vision, or are we just gonna be sending thank you cards back and forth? He had sent me this card back, and inside he had put his business card, and he had underlined the E in Julien, and it said, my name is Julien, not A-N.
I was in college at School of Visual Arts in New York. You know, I needed money. I mean, I had run out of money, basically. We had done a budget together before I'd gone up there, but it, you know, wasn't enough. He's like right about to leave the house, you know, to go to Temple, and I call him and I say, Dad, like, I really need you to send me some money. I wanted him to send it by Western Union, so I got it immediately, and now anyone that knows Dad doesn't like anything that's rushed. Like, if it's rushed, it doesn't feel, it's not planned. What do you mean you need more money? Like, we did our budget, like, it's not, you know, and I go, Dad, you don't understand, like, I don't have any money. And I literally needed to make him understand exactly what I was talking about. So I had some change in my pocket, and I'm like, Dad, I have like 83 cents in my, you know, my pocket, you know, like rattling it. I was like, hear that? That's the money, that's all the money I have right now. He sent me some money, of course, and you know, he always supported me through everything, through school. I wouldn't ever have been able to accomplish what I've accomplished without his support.
Julien helped plan our honeymoon. So he made sure that we had pre-planned everything. And we laughed and we joked about how many details that he made us pay attention to. It gave us a life lesson, and every opportunity that we've had to plan a trip, we sit down with Julien first, because we know somewhere in his house in a drawer, he's got the map of the place that we think we want to go.
Julien has always been there for me. He's always been a great friend, a lot of fun to be with, but he's always been there. Somebody you can count on, somebody who's reliable, somebody you can call up and talk to, and I value that, I appreciate that.
He has earned the respect and trust of people because he goes beyond the medical part. People trust him, he deals with people like they're really people, and I think that says all you need to say about Julien Meyer.
Always nice to his patients, treated people the way he liked to be treated.
He always instilled in us these incredible values, especially about family. I feel like a good person because of what he taught me.
It's been the joy of my life as being his friend, and I think he feels the same way. In all honesty, I think we've been closer than brothers.
He just loved to make people laugh, sometimes at their own expense. He was just a real jokester. Just loved. I think he got that from Papa. He, you know, our grandfather, my mother's father, was just a really great guy, and I think he got a lot of those characteristics, and his characteristics for being very caring, loving, generous, taking us on trips and all that. He was a good bro.